Today I'm in Suffolk and I'm starting off in Bury St Edmunds. I'm spending 3 days in Suffolk, starting here in the market town of Bury. The town began as an Anglo-Saxon settlement called Bedrick's Worth. Worth was a Saxon word meaning an enclosure such as a farm or hamlet surrounded by a stockade. The Abbey gardens are extensive and very well kept, very enjoyable for a stroll or to sit and watch the world go by. In the 9th century, Edmund was king of East Anglia. He was martyred in 869. At the beginning of the 10th century, his remains were brought to the monastery for safekeeping. In the early 11th century, King Canute replaced the monastery with an abbey. The abbey soon became rich and powerful. The abbey was closed by Henry VIII in 1539. The buildings were cannibalised by the townspeople. These post-medieval houses were built into the walls of the ancient abbey. St Edmundsbury Cathedral, formerly entitled the Cathedral Church of St James and St Edmund, is the cathedral for the Church of England's Diocese of St Edmundsbury and Ipswich. It became a cathedral in 1914. It's the seat of the Bishop of St Edmundsbury and Ipswich. Originating in the 11th century, it was rebuilt in the 12th and 16th centuries as a parish church and became a cathedral, as I said, in 1914. It's been considerably enlarged in recent decades. A church has stood on the site of the cathedral since at least 1065, when St Denis's Church was built within the precincts of Bury St Edmunds Abbey. Some of the stained glass windows, in particular the Susanna window, go back to the 15th century. This is the Abbey Gate, complete with its portcullis. The gate was destroyed in 1327 during the riots by the local people who were angry at the power of the monastery. The Abbey Gate you can see today was built in the 14th century. It's very easy to stroll around the shops in Bury St Edmunds. The impressive Angel Hotel dates from around 1780. Charles Dickens stayed at the Angel when he worked for the Morning Chronicle. St Mary's Church is the civic church of Bury St Edmunds and the third largest parish church in England. It's the final resting place of Mary Tudor, Queen of France, Duchess of Suffolk, and the favourite sister of Henry VIII. The Theatre Royal was built by National Gallery architect William Wilkins in 1819 and is the sole surviving Regency theatre in the country. There's a relatively new shopping centre where the old cattle market used to be. Now this is one of my favourite things in Bury St Edmunds. This is the Pillar of Salt. It's a Grade 2 listed road sign. It was listed in 1998 when it was described as being individual and probably unique. Tomorrow I'm going to a town with Harry Potter connections. This morning I'm in the lovely historical town of Lavenham. Lavenham, known as England's best preserved medieval village and one of Suffolk's important wool towns. You can spend hours exploring one of the most picturesque villages in England. With its Tudor houses, crooked half-timbered cottages and 15th century walled church, it's easy to understand why the streets of Lavenham have been used as backgrounds for TV and films, including Lovejoy and Harry Potter and the Witchfinder General. The parish church of St Peter and St Paul at Lavenham is one of the last great Suffolk wall churches to be built before the Reformation. It's one of the largest churches in England. It's going to be a very hot August day today, and I'm off to Sutton Hoo. Sutton Hoo, near Woodbridge in Suffolk, is the site of two early medieval cemeteries from the 6th to the 7th centuries. It's now a National Trust property. Archaeologists have been evacuating the area since the 1930s. One cemetery had an undisturbed ship burial with a wealth of Anglo-Saxon artefacts of an historical and archaeological significance. Most of these objects are now held by the British Museum in London. There is a replica of the ship at the entrance to the property. These are the burial mounds. As a body was not found, there was early speculation that the ship burial was a cenotaph. However, soil analysis conducted in 1967 found phosphate traces, supporting the view that a body had disappeared into the acid soil. The presence of a platform for a large coffin that was about 9 feet long was indicated. It's possible to stay in National Trust apartments on the property at Sutton Hoo, and there's also a campsite. The ship, weighing an estimated 20 tonnes, was dragged uphill from the River Deben at Woodbridge. That's Woodbridge in the distance. I'm going to take a trip now into the town of Woodbridge. And I haven't just come to look at the trains either. and that was the market town of Woodbridge. It was hot, very hot, 33 degrees. And that's a glimpse of Suffolk. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.